Well, welcome to the West Sports Show. And today it's all about Western Derby 60. Still cannot believe it is Western Derby 60. It's making me feel very old. We will get onto all the other games, but we're going to spend a bit of time talking about the Derby. I am joined by my colleagues and friends, Mitchell Woodcock and Adrian Barich. We are brought to you by Tab Touch. Got the touch? Download the Tab Touch app today. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Mitch, how are you?
I'm well, Quarters. How about yourself? I'm just excited. I'm just buzzed. It's Derby week. It's 17th versus 18th, but it feels like there's a lot on the line.
There is. And Barra, the company man, as always, has swanned in here wearing the 7 cap.
Mate, when you got a ball patch, you just got to go for whatever's in the car. And Mitch and I were at the waffle launch this morning, and how hot was it? So,
it was warm.
Mate, how big is that that van that they've got now for the waffle? You've seen that, Joe?
Sullivan's Logistic Maxi Van.
Oh, mate.
It's beautiful.
It's incredible.
Huge.
2 levels.
Can I borrow it to go camping?
Umbrellas on top. I could see you getting around in that.
We might need it for gather round. We'll get in there. We'll get in there for gather round.
You have to drive over, do you?
No, but we will. We'll have a crack. No,
well, just searching for accommodation at the moment. Mitch and Craig O'Donoghue. I'm going over.
Hang on, backpackers.
Well, I've already got my accommodation in Glen.
Oh, you got mates.
Well, no,
I'm surprised. Also, he saw the van just quietly.
Why is that, mate?
Because I reckon every time I looked over, he had another bacon and egg sandwich in his hand, and they weren't half eaten every time I looked over. So I reckon he had about 3 or 4.
Mate, I did have 3. They're bloody magnet. You can't turn one of those down, Quarters.
I know, mate. I know what you're saying. Hey, boys, we're going to talk about. We'll pull the Derby apart, give our winners, give our predicted Norm Smith medalists, our predicted Glendenning Allen medalists. But I just wanted to open with. Let's just throw around a few of our favourite Derby memories, and I'll open here, and for me, it's always the first. So I'd been here 2 years and I was still getting my head around. I was doing some real research into WA footy history. I had a fair idea, but, I was covering a lot of waffles, so I used to watch this bloke running around. But it wasn't until the Derby where I really realised the passion in WA football. It was the Mother's Day massacre. It was a massive result in the Eagles' favour. And the day I just remember John Worsfold running around, terrorising the Fremantle forwards, and Brett Heady kicking a lot of goals. But for me, it was the build-up and just everyone in every office around Perth was talking about can this new time and space game plan of Gerard Neesham's take on Mick's very meticulously organised launch pad off Guy McKenna at halfback? What's going to work? And we found out, didn't we? Because Big Brother punched up Little Brother. But
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I was in the rooms. And I saw Woosha preparing for what he was about to do, and he was so angry. And such
so give us an answer. What was he saying?
All right, I'll let you in on one thing, and I just want you to take it the right way. Yeah. I believe he was speaking to a group of the boys about what he was going to do to Winston Abraham, right? And David Wirapunda had just joined the club, and he was, still had a ponytail, young fellow, and he's hearing what's going to happen to Winston Abraham. And Woosha went, boys, hang on, boys, I've got to go over there. And he goes over to Wirra and he goes, David, what I'm about to do to Winston Abraham has nothing to do with you. And Wirra reckons he went, oh my God, he's going to kill him. Yeah. And then he went out, he ran through Burton, he got hold of Dale Kickett, then he warned Winston if he went near the ball, he was going to rip his legs off and shove him where. But the best one, Quarters, and you'll love this, Mitch, was when Scotty Waters rocked in. And he was playing for Fremantle at the time, but he was part of the Magnificent Seven. So a close friend of Johnny and all the Magnificent Seven that all came through to play for the Eagles. He comes over and he goes, settle down, John. And he goes, you effing traitor, I'm going to effing kill you. And Waters couldn't believe that his mate was threatening him in the first Derby.
And so the Derby rivalry was born. And I put it behind the showdown. The thing for me is the ultimate pub test. The showdown stands up because they actually did have an aftermatch blue in a pub, the Ramsgate Hotel. Yeah. So when you do that, to me, it's the ultimate pub test.
Well, you had the Demolition Derby, you don't need it.
That's right.
You reckon? Pav and what's your highlight? Pav and the Demolition Derby?
I'm probably more modern because a little bit less vintage. But
you're younger than we are.
I really loved I remember being a kid and I loved watching the Carr brothers and Ben Cousins go at it. I just remember being fascinated by that as a kid, and you're trying to, you're not so much a tactician at the time, so you're looking at that and You know, and then
went
you
after
see the
Cuzzy.
likes. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you got Judd and Kerr on the outside. Those are great memories. Hayden Ballantyne hitting the post. That was just
For me, that
was a
was-
great
and-
derby. That
and
was
the-
just a amazing
And the young girl
game.
leaning over the fence, please kick it, please kick it. And he gave it a pretty good
And
roost
he,
too.
and he thought he'd kicked it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
won the game. And so a lot of Eagles fans, that's one of their highlights.
Yeah,
he-
because-
his broken heart straight afterwards, the poor bugger.
And I think
Not
it's got-
saying I am or you,
No,
but
and then the other one's got to be the Lockie Neal game where I think he had about 43 disposals and had the ball on a string. And I just never remember.
you know he's
seeing
won
it.
3 Glendenning Allens or Glendennings.
Yeah, well, and we'll talk about those in a second. But I just remember that game, and I don't think I've ever seen a player just take a game by the scruff of the neck like he did that day and turn it into just something incredible.
I'm gonna trump you all. I reckon I can't believe this never gets mentioned as much as it should be. The goal of the year 2003. Daniel Kerr kicked goal of the year.
Oh, where he ran all the way through the ground. That was
in the Derby.
amazing. Yeah.
That is one of the greatest highlights in Derby history, and he won goal of the year in a Derby. Massive, massive highlight. So
To be fair, I was 11.
put that in.
So if you have a couple of individual performances, I'm going to mention Pav's 8 goals, round 18, 2012. That was in Ross Lyon's first year, and they'd been well beaten earlier in the year. So that was an individual highlight. Scotty Cummings has kicked 10-2 in 2000, round 6.
Scotty will love to
10
hear
goals
that.
too. Judd wins the Glendenning Allen medal with 33, pretty handy game, 33, 1 goal and 11 inside 50s. Josh Carr had
an
26
amazing
and 3 that day. So, there's some individual performances there. Ashley Sampi, of course, winning it retrospectively, which was one of the highlights in recent years.
When Ross Glendenning overruled, even though he wasn't a judge.
Gave it to Michael Gardner.
Yeah.
I know that Craig O'Donoghue in particular did a lot of work in that area.
Trying to get Sampi the medal.
Well,
Really?
yeah, trying to get him equal
Just
to
get
share the medal,
recognised, yeah.
which was a nice thing to
What
do.
about, and what about funny things? The start of the Demolition Derby,
Yep.
Gardner versus Pavlich in the goal square.
1,000 punches thrown, about 1 connected.
And then Pav slipped over.
That's right.
It's the funniest
It's a bit like the 2004 grand final. Remember Brisbane v Port? And it was Wakelin and
Yeah.
Alistair Lynch.
Lynch.
And they threw about
Haymakers.
80 haymakers and not one connected.
I was about 12 years old, and I remember watching that with my mum and her friends, and I was, sitting there as this kid, and I remember watching it.
Were you
and-
scared, mate?
No, I just remember being so confused as to what is going on. Anyway, but look, a recent highlight I'm going to say, it might be a nice segue into another topic here, but Harley Reid's first derby last year was pretty spectacular. That mark in the
A
goal
win against the
square
odds
and-
by West
Now,
Coast.
who
Elliot
voted?
Yeo.
Now you bloke. Who voted on that?
I did. Did
No.
I vote on that? No, I voted the year before.
That's me,
And guess who didn't get the medal?
Harley Reid.
Harley Reid. He's just pumped him up.
I gave Elliot Yeo 3 votes, and I stand behind it. Hey, Elliot Yeo got 3 Brownlow votes.
Yeah.
Elliot Yeo got 3 Brownlow votes.
Of course, you
Mate,
can't.
you didn't mention Elliot Yeo, mate. You mentioned Harley Reid.
I
and
got-
you never
yeah,
gave
but-
him the medal.
Doesn't mean he was best on ground. I just thought the performance, but it's a good segue
Of co- of
to our
course.
next topic, I think.
Well, not a segue yet, but of course, when we talk about the Demolition Derby, in the same breath, we talk about 2018 and Gaff's, the Gaff Brayshaw incident, the cost Gaff a spot in a premiership team.
Actually,
wanna
before you
mention-
leave Gaff, can we just say North Melbourne, so good. Getting Gaffy in to present his jumper to Jack
Darling and helping him chair him off
then,
the game.
and then Gaff cheering him off. Mate, that's a magnificent gesture. don't you
Before I need to mention our old mate Hayes. So where it sits at the moment on the Glendenning Allen medal tally, he's got 4. He's out there, but there's a heap of them on 3, including Caleb Sarong.
There's 8, isn't there?
I want to remind you, there's about 8. I want to remind
name
you
them?
of 2000, round 6, 2006, which was a great era. 2002, 2007, good era for Freo. Hazelby's goal with under a minute remaining to win the game for the Dockers. A great memory. Now, I heard him earlier in the week. I saw the piece with you and Hayes talking about he thinks that Caleb Sarong will go ahead, and I think it's likely that he will. Did hear him earlier in the week saying that, West Coast don't normally tag. They didn't tag Lockie Neal last week, and, that's not what they do. but I think they should this week with Caleb Sarong. Well, of course he does.
Yeah.
Tag him out of the game.
I say this very
so he can stay out in front.
Oh,
Hayes, I'm up to you. I know what you're up to.
I say this very tongue-in-cheek, but Hayes, it was very much, I said to him, you're happy to pass the baton on? Oh, yeah, I thought it would have been taken by now. He wouldn't be happy about it. He likes the Master of the Derby title, the best ever to play.
It'd still be the Master of the Derby because they'd be tied. And no one's going to break it, you wouldn't think, for a long time.
No, Caleb Sarong's got
Caleb
3 and
Sarong's
8.
on 3, mate. So
3 and 8 games.
And he needs one to tie.
Paul Hayes
Yeah, to
had
tie,
4
but
and
he
20.
needs to win 2 more.
He'll win 2 more.
And Pavlova paid, how many did he pay? Pavlova paid 34 derbies. And you know.
won 3.
So they're hard to win, mate.
I think
they're
3 or
hard
2.
to win.
But what I will say is, I think Caleb Sarong will surpass him.
Yeah.
Caleb Sarong signed for another 4 years. He's
Mate, put
got
it this way,
8 more derbies.
if Caleb surpasses him, the Dockers ain't winning a flag. They've got to have someone else emerge, please.
So let's talk a bit
Shea
about.
Bold, someone's got to step up.
Let's talk a bit about. Well, let's talk about Sunday's game. 3:10 p.m. Optus Stadium. The Eagles are at $4. The Dockers at $1.25. If it's close, you'd almost back the Eagles, wouldn't you? I'll read out some champion data stats here. Freo and close games. The last 6 defeats in a row, all overrun and outscored by an average of 15 points. So it's 110 to 22 late in games. Scores from inside 50 in that period. 42% down to 23% for Freo. Contested possession drops from minus 1.3 in those goes to minus 4.7 late in those games. Winless in their past 7 matches at Optus when it's been decided by 3 goals or fewer. So I think we're all pretty much sure. And look, the Dockers have been doing a lot of match sim throughout the preseason about
They've been training
close
it now,
results.
But they blew it on the weekend. Did you see
did.
that Mark Stone piece where he pointed out who made the mistakes, including Fredericks? They didn't go wide on that kick that went in, so it allowed Sydney to come out the other side. Frederick got stepped twice. Jackson didn't take up his correct spot. Caleb was ball watching, and then Amadi gets the ball and wins the game. And you wouldn't have thought. And Amadi,
not fair goal to Biles too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
but Amadi won out with Cox. You think Cox could do the job anyway. I was surprised he got outmarked, but that never happens, that one-on-one.
Well, I reckon the way that was set up, though, it was caught them a bit off guard. I think it was more what happened up the field with that particular one.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
That was that play.
Yeah.
So Fredericks got stepped twice. Jackson didn't move. You have a look at Mark Stone's piece on the 6BR website about where the mistakes were made. It was bloody unbelievable.
Your coach.
Yeah, he's
That's
a
a
good
good
coach.
play.
I tell you, he should be back in the AFL.
Danny Laidley's stuff was pretty good too.
Yeah, always
who's-
great to read in
who's-
the West. Danny Laidley's
Danny Laidley's
column in the
stuff.
West
Yeah,
Australian
she's
is always
lifted. You know
fantastic.
why? Challenged. Simo's killing it. Simo is killing it. He's gone next level stuff. Remember when Buckley got the lemon and sass and joined the media, and we all went, wow, look at the stuff he's telling us. Simo's gone
I
there.
think Danny's stuff's been pretty good too. Yeah, I agree with you. He's
but
very good.
She's been out of the game a long
Let's
time.
stay on this game.
And Stoney's just come out of the game as well.
Yeah.
We need more of that stuff.
I agree.
I've been texting Simo, mate, next level. This is unbelievable.
Do we expect Jack Graham to play?
Teams will be out this afternoon.
Of course, so we're just guessing
last
today.
week I asked him after the game, this is Andrew McQualter, sorry, if Jack Graham would play. He said he was touch and go, could have played at the weekend, but they held him back. So I expect Jack Graham to play. I know Jake Waterman trained today as well.
Yeah, did not look good on Tuesday, I can tell you. I mean, look, when I say that, completed training, running at half pace, but I mean, as a lot of them were because they'd been to Brisbane. But then it just didn't look good on that leg late. But I'm told he trained pretty well today, so that's good news.
I'm going to say if he's 80%, I wouldn't play him. I think he needs to be above 90. I just think I would rather Jake Waterman for 20 games than for 10 if they rush him back a bit too quick.
Fair effort by Clay Hall to get on a late flight to get over there, and I thought it was a really good contribution from him.
Yeah, so West
game
Coast
against
wanted a like-for-like, so they had Harvey Johnston and Matt Flynn over there as emergencies. Harvey Johnston, with all due respect, isn't an inside midfielder like a Clay Hall or a Jack Graham. So they flew... Clay Hall was named to play Waffle, actually, that day against Peel Thunder. They flew him out Saturday morning. He had 15 disposals and topped the team with 7 clearances. I actually thought he was really hard at the contest. I really enjoyed the way he went about it. I thought he was really physical and added a bit of presence. And I'd like to see him get retained in the squad, even if it's as the sub for this week, just for that effort. I think it's really rewarding. Clay. Yeah, and you know what? I think he can match the bodies of the guys like Sarong and Brayshaw. Clay Hall's a big young man. You know, we talk about how big Harley is. If you ever stand next to Clay Hall, He's not a small human being. So, look, I think he's got the ability to stand up in this sort of game.
What worries me about West Coast this week is as much as they'll sport science around it, okay? They'll put all of that around it. But you have gone to Brisbane.
Yeah,
it's the longest trip in the AFL. It's 87. You were there, Mitch.
Yeah,
you're walking 20 metres and you're just completely saturated.
I want to say to people out there that say 28 degrees is nothing. I walked from the bus stop
We've all been to
to
Bali,
the Gabba, and it's about a 200-metre walk, and I'm in okay nick. I was sweating profusely when I walked in because it was so hot.
And the game was played at midday.
And the
Mate,
guys,
how dumb was that?
the Brisbane
That is
guys
the
were-
dumbest thing. I'm prepared to say that if the conditions weren't the way they were, the Eagles would have won.
Oh, look,
I reckon the Eagles would have won that game. You saw the cramp that Archer Reed copped.
Bailey Williams had an entire body cramp.
He had
Yeah.
he had a complete body cramp. So they had no ruckman. They had Jimby in the ruck.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Jimby in the ruck.
191 centimetres. Look, I
sorry,
think,
That's
Mitch,
a
we
monumental
interrupted
effort by the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, like, just talking to the Brisbane reporters there, they were just as surprised at how hot it was,
Yep.
and that this game was on at the same time. I'm worried, like you said, Quarters, that 7-day break, it's a nice break for West Coast, but that's a long flight back. That humidity is high.
It's going to hurt them.
They're going to be tired. I know that would have been
gonna
managed
hurt
a
'em.
lot, but I tell you what, if this game's close heading into the last quarter, you'd have to back Freo because of that reason. Whereas Fremantle, I know it was reasonably warm on Sunday, but it was nowhere near the conditions of what West Coast played in, and they played a high-octane, high-intensity game. And you could always just feel, because of those conditions, that Brisbane were going to eventually overrun them because they could never put a big enough gap on Brisbane to actually put the game to bed.
So we'll talk about Freo in a second. We will go into depth with Fremantle. In what scenario can you see West Coast winning? I'm going to pick Freo, but West Coast, if they can maintain that elite pressure, as they put on Brisbane for about 2.5 quarters at the weekend, you saw what it did to them in the first quarter. And if they can maintain that elite pressure, we got a bit of an insight into Andrew McQualter's game plan for that period of time. And what happens, it's quick ball movement from the turnover. And that's what hurt Brisbane. So that's in that world, if Fremantle's defence is a little bit too top heavy, I can see the West Coast, perhaps smaller forward line, having some impact.
Well, from the ground at the weekend too, what I will say is the way West Coast defended the ground, especially early against Brisbane, was excellent. And Brisbane and Fremantle play a similar style with that marking. They like a lot of uncontested marks. They like to move the ball like that. West Coast really stopped Brisbane, especially early on, from moving quite fluently down the ground with those uncontested marks. They made them switch, made them turn, made them go wide. They blocked the corridor. They really defended the ground well. And then, like you said, when they turned it over, they counter-attacked with pace. The guys like Dewar, Baker, Harley when he was up and going, Clay Hall had some tough moments and did some things like that. Liam Ryan got on the end of a few goals. So if West Coast actually defend Optus Stadium, it's a bigger ground, obviously, so it's a little bit harder. But if they set up that defence again and stop Fremantle's ball movement, really slow it down, really make them go long down the line, I reckon that they could actually put a decent presence on, and then you'll open up the game for a guy like McGovern who can take a lot of intercept marks.
Barich?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big talk about is with the West Coast is where does McGovern, what does he do? Does he actually go to Tracy, or do you try to see if you can get
I think Edwards goes to Tracy.
Jai Amos, or does he just seep off? But the biggest move in that game was Baker to the middle. No percent in the middle round one, 83% in the middle round two, and that lifted Tim Kelly.
I thought Tim Kelly was
found his
fantastic
mojo,
too, yeah.
but he didn't want to be the main man. Baker was. And then Harley, and I didn't think Harley was that bad. Early on, no good in the first quarter, but he came. I thought he played okay, Harley.
Actually, so let's talk about Harley just for a moment.
Yep.
Has dominated headlines this week, copped the $1,000 fine. I thought after quarter time he had a major impact. I thought he gave that stoppage area real presence, and I thought Kelly was good, Baker was they were both really good, but I thought he contributed to that. So while I think it was a major step forward from round one, even though he gave away 7 free kicks. I think it was.
Yeah, and I checked the free kicks. A lot of them were, it wasn't him being stupid.
Technique and perhaps the combative way he plays.
It's so overcooked.
But he's got to be. Look, let's be honest.
Kane Corns has got onto it. Caro's defended him. All the angst has shifted away from our coast and over to the east coast. They've all turned on him now, and then they're running on all those footy shows.
Yeah, not everyone, but yeah.
But Caro's defended him, but the rest of them pantsed him. Like all of them.
So, Barry, I want your opinion on this as a former player. I really think I don't know. Look at the game on my days off. I was just watching it while I was doing some stuff around the house and watching some of Harley's efforts. I actually can't question the effort that were there. And what I think now is I wonder if Harley's trying too hard. I wonder if Harley's come into this season realising there's no Elliot Yeo. He's the big body midfielder in there. He's running around and feels like he's got to be the main man. And I wonder if he's trying to play with a bit of extra passion, a bit of extra oomph, a bit of too much. And what's happening is it's going the other way a little bit at times, I wonder. I wonder if he's trying to be too physical, he's trying to make his presence felt, and he's gone away from that natural game that makes him so good. And I just want to know what you think of that, because I do think that sometimes these mistakes and those free kicks aren't coming from, a lack of care. I think they might be coming from a bit of overcare.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is trying very hard, and you don't want him to not try very hard. So the biggest component, and I was talking to Ben Cousins about it, is because he was sitting on the boundary. He says, mate, when they were coming off, they were absolutely dead, right? So they were just so knackered. And I believe he came back from his holiday 100 kilos, at 100 kilos. I'm not saying he was fat or whatever, I'm just saying he was...
That's too much.
Yeah, so he's still trying to drop weight. He's not as fit as he should be, so he can't do what he expects. He can't run games out. Even Liam Baker said he couldn't run the game out. He's got to get fitter. Baker said, I've got to get fitter because now I'm not
playing that role.
I'm not playing halfback anymore. I'm inside mid. I reckon you might be onto something in terms of maybe they should release Harley to the halfback like a Sheasel role and take the pressure off him, and then it's all in front of him and he can control his game better, or start him on the bench. But you certainly don't want to wind him back. I reckon as he gets fitter, he'll get better.
Oh, 100%.
So the key to this game, a competitive loss to the Eagles is still a good result, right?
About 6 goals.
Freo have to win. Freo have to win. They cannot be zipping 3.
And 18th.
And the pressure will mount on the coast, Justin Longmuir. Let's be honest about it. So how does Freo win this game? Clearly, they've got the weapons in attack. Tracy, Amos, Jackson will be, we expect, again, playing first ruck and moving back there. Voss rarely lets them down. He's kicking, yes, but for effort he doesn't. We know the defence is tight, albeit they're not the best kicks out of the back line compared to other teams, but it's a tight defence. Midfield smashed in round 1. I thought it was much better in round 2. It was really only the decision-making in the key moments late in that game that cost them. So Freo, how do they win this game? What is it? What will get them home?
So what I'm basically doing in my head right now, I'm parking their backline. I think their backline's good enough. I think the backline just sits there and it does its thing. They need to win the stoppages. They need to get better on the clearances. They need to get better at first possession out of that area. And when they do that, their ball use will be cleaner going forward. So that's the first thing for me.
Which is why West Coast will be trying this pressure, elite pressure. Yeah.
The second thing for me is I think, and I know that the forwards haven't fired as much, and that you can argue chicken or the egg. Is it the delivery or is it the forwards? We can all argue that till the cows come home. But you look at the way that West Coast defence is structured. There is no Witherden, there's no Josh Rotham, there's no Tom Barras. Now, people will say, well, Witherden and Josh Rotham maybe weren't going to win you a derby. No, but there were experienced enough defenders who could play above their height. West Coast are a little light on for tools in the back line at the moment. Yep. Rhett Bazzo's coming back from a foot injury, has played 1 waffle game. Callum Jamison's out at the
Sandy Brock hasn't played yet.
Sandy Brock hasn't played and, has spent an entire pre-season there, but can you really trust him to come in? I'm not sure yet. It'll be interesting. So the way I'm looking at it is Harry Edwards has got to go to Josh Tracy. They did that in round 20 last year and it worked. I wonder if McGovern has to go to Pat Voss, not because he has to shut down Pat Voss necessarily or because Pat Voss is a better forward than Amos. That's obviously not true. What I'm thinking is that'll allow Jeremy McGovern to hopefully peel off and be able to influence that intercept marking, because that's where he's at his best. Not one-on-one defending is when he reads the play better. And if he gets caught on an Amos in that lead-up position, I think you take away a weapon for West Coast, which is a win.
You're so right. The
Fremantle.
Dockers will want Amos to be playing on McGovern. You're so right. But who plays on Amos now then?
That's my issue, and that's my problem. West
so
Coast
is it a Brady Hoff who did a little bit of that in the pre-season, played a bit taller?
Yeah, I think Brady Hoff goes to Bolton just because you look at his record on Charlie Cameron, and Charlie Cameron and Bolton are very similar.
So Brady
small
Holt, there's
forwards.
some question marks on Brady today at training.
Missed with illness.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, there you go. And I saw
Brady.
Yep.
Brady was missed today through illness.
And
So
Shea Bolton
it's
didn't
a few
do much
days.
either.
Well, Shea Bolton it was a light session. I was there, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So he spent the first part of it under the watchful eye of a fitness coach, doing his zigzags and his sort of half sprints along that boundary line. So initially I thought, well, this is interesting. Is this a fitness test? I don't think it was. I think it was more sort of coming off round one, his first game for some period of time.
He's going to be managed.
And then he went off the field. He came back, just did some light drills. Didn't take part in the 18 on 18. Just did some light drills. Thing I'll say about Shea Bolton. So he's got a great record at Optus. It wasn't his best game at the weekend, but I thought late he warmed into that game. I thought in that last quarter, albeit he did kick one quite shallow from about 40 that he could have had more impact with. But I thought Shea Bolton looked the most likely to win that game for Freo in the dying stages. That's how I looked at that game.
That's what they got him for.
Yeah, he's going to have a great impact with that team.
So I'm going to go with the Amos. Back on the Amos one, though, I'm going to go with Ruben Jinby. I think he has to be the logical choice.
Jimby goes back to fullback.
Well, he's about 3 centimetres shorter than Jay Amos.
He's
gone from the ruck to fullback.
Has also spent a bit of time in the pre-season doing that.
Well, he played a lot of defence. I asked Champion Data for some statistics on who he played on in the first 2 rounds, and they gave me a list of about 12 opponents. So he's been the Mr. Fix-It, the guy that's run around. But I honestly think, and I know it's
in the
a tough
waffle game
matchup,
that
that's who
they
has to
played
go
well. Who played deep for them there?
Well, I wasn't there,
okay.
So I was in Brisbane, but I do know Jobe Shanahan kicked 3 goals up forward. I know Jack Williams played as the ruck forward.
What about Sandy
Brock? He would have played deep back.
Maybe Sandy Brock comes in.
Well, there's some speculation
but that's
about
the question. But he's also, and he's a bit taller than a Ruben Jinby, but I wonder, does he have the athleticism and the front line speed to play on a Jai? Whereas I think
I reckon you guys would know it. I reckon Sandy's coming in. We'll find out in about an hour.
We'll find out in about an hour. So this will be super
Well, that's the full squads as well.
It's good speculation. There will be one change to the Freo lineup. Brandon Walker dislocated that shoulder. That's the second time he's done it this year.
Yep.
So there's still, it's likely to be surgery just to tighten that shoulder up a bit, but they still are not 100% decided on that. They're just waiting to see how it.
He had to go out of the team anyway, I reckon. But anyway, who comes in for him?
Well, so is it Draper who comes in? He was the starting sub last week. Is it a Warner? Do you go more for foot speed, or do you go for the?
I reckon they need dash.
Yeah.
So if Jake Waterman doesn't play, the West Coast forward line's actually a little bit smaller. So you'll essentially have likely Alex Pearce on Oscar Allen. Brendan Cox will then be able to go to possibly an Archer Reed or a Jack Williams, depending on who West Coast players that backup ruck.
Yep.
You could get away with a Josh Draper then playing on a Liam Ryan. We've seen him do that on Jeremy Cameron. Different players, I understand, but my point being is...
Been good, Liam Ryan.
But my point is athleticism. Josh Draper can match Ryan pace for pace, a little bit taller. So it could give you the option of bringing in a speedster as the sub, maybe a Cooper Simpson. I like Quinton Narkle. I think Quinton Narkle as the sub.
He played well, mate.
Would be,
he played well in that game.
I was there when he played against you in Perth. I thought Quinton Narkle was super. I think he has a bit of front half class. He's probably not ready yet game style wise and fitness wise for a full game, but I reckon if you injected him in an ideal world early in the third term, he would add a real bit of class to that forward line and help their connection with their forwards.
So I'm going to ask you, and I'll give you mine first. I want a winner, I want a margin, and I want to give us a Glendenning Allen medalist and give us an X factor.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Fremantle 20 points. I'm going Luke Jackson to win the Glendenning Allen medal. And here's my X factor. If West Coast are to win or get really close, Tyrell Dewar on the wing. Now, he was magnificent last week. 9 possessions, 2 goals in the first quarter. And they weren't just gimme goals. He worked hard for the first, contributed to a turnover in a tackle and got forward of the footy. So smart footy. Second one was a right foot snap through traffic. I was impressed. Had a chat to him this week. He's a good kid. And
he's going to know he's alive in this game, though.
Oh, he will. Unlike playing at the Gabba in 87% humidity.
Yeah, but like...
he was on Will Ashcroft at the weekend and he played very well on Will.
But he's going to... Driscoll's in good form, 25. He might be on one wing. And the other wing is the friggin' running machine. at Fremantle, isn't he?
Jeremy Sharp.
Mate, have you seen the distance he's doing?
Yeah.
The way they coach against him now to Constantine,
Okay.
mate, Dewar will know he's alive, I tell you.
So Derby tipped Fremantle by 6 goals, 36 points. And because I've spooked about this forward half stuff, I'm going a real rogue Glendinning Allen medalist, I'm going to go Jai Amos. I think he's going to kick about 5 and be the difference.
He's
Bounce
due a
back
bag.
to form.
Yep. And
Some people wanted him dropped.
Yep. I think
No, I
he
wouldn't be
bounced
doing
back
that.
to
He's
form.
working hard. He's not far off. He's working hard. He's working hard up the ground to get possessions. But
And my X
I'd keep him
factor
in there.
is if he plays, again, backing myself in here, I think Quinton Knuckles should play, and I think he could be an X factor in a second half. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the medal for that reason, but if he touches it 10 times and a quarter and a half of footy, he can help them score.
Mate, I'm so tempted to go Harley Reid for the medal after you didn't give him the
for it.
votes.
I'm
Who's
not
doing
voting.
the votes this time?
Chris Robinson is the chair from the West
Yes,
Australian.
well done, Chris Robinson.
Will
Bravo.
Schofield,
Scoey?
and there was an eagle. Oh, no, it's the eagle. There was a docker. The docker was
Peter Bell.
Peter Bell from ABC Radio.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd be good. Mate, I can't go past Caleb because when I speak to the West Coast guys, they just say he's the one bloke we can't stop. We haven't been able to stop him every bloody derby. He's just, I reckon they need to put, this is my advice to them. I said, mate, Liam Baker, just go same for same. Just say, Baker, I know you're a see ball, get ball man. Just curtail that a bit. Just keep an eye on Caleb when he runs forward.
Who's your tip?
So my tips is the Dockers.
Yes.
By 20 points and Caleb to win the medal. And
Yes.
here's my quirky bit.
X factor.
Who do you reckon's got the youngest team in the derby between the teams?
Definitely Freo.
And
By about 0.5.
how young are they?
20, is it 24 to, no, is it,
24 and 5 months
and 25.
last round, which
25.
makes them the third youngest team in the comp. How come they keep getting younger, Mitch? Only Essendon and Richmond have got younger teams.
Well, I think O'Meara was
So
the only
North's
player.
been bumped up a bit by Jack Darling and Luke Parker.
Any danger the Dockers can be bumped up? Why do they keep
Well,
getting
they've got
younger?
no Walters and
Benjamin
Fife.
Button of the AFL.
They've got no Walters and
That's a good
Fife,
call.
and the only player above 30 was O'Meara from the weekend. I
So
think the
who'd
next
you give
best
us a
was
tip?
Alex
But
Pearce.
how did the Eagles get?
Give us a tip,
How did
Margie?
the Eagles get older than the Dockers? And I gave my tip. I said Dockers 20 points. I'm going Caleb Sarong for the medal.
You watch
Jack
all of us
Gra-
be wrong on Monday.
and Jack Graham comes back, eh?
Yep.
So that's a
Well,
big in.
we're not sure. No, I'd be holding my...
I think he does.
Okay, let's see what happens there. I just want to take a moment, boys, to shout out our longtime partner of the show, Thirsty Camel. When you are on the go, you can save big bucks at Thirsty Camel bottle shops. Shop the way you want, both online and in-store. Head to the website or download the Thirsty Camel app today, Mitch and Barra. Convenience and great value every day. We love our friends
very
at Thirsty
serious
Camel,
ad,
don't we?
mate.
Also, make sure to stick around for the Thirsty Camel mailbag later in the show. We'll be giving away a $50 digital voucher for the best email of the week. We got some really good ones. Had some really good ones on Tuesday too, boys. Let's go to the other matches this weekend, but let's start to get some tips from our good friend at Tab Touch, David Short.
Shorty's tips. Producer Josh filling in for Glen Quartermain here, and joining me in the studio is David Short from Tab Touch. G'day, Shorty.
G'day, Josh. Nice to be with you.
Who's hot this week?
Adelaide are running hot. They won their first 2 matches by 60-plus points. They're piling on the goals. They're $29 into 12 to win the premiership.
They are on fire at the moment. Who's your cooler this week?
Cooler are Essendon. They were smashed at home by Adelaide last week. Their top 8 odds have drifted accordingly. They're now $4.75 out to $7 to make the 8.
And your hot tip?
Hot tip, I'm going to take a multi with Hawthorn, St Kilda and Freo to win into Adelaide to win by 25 points or more. That's paying $3.25 this weekend.
Nice. And who's on the drift?
On the drift are Melbourne. All the money's with Gold Coast for their clash this weekend. The D's are blown from $1.92 out to $2.05.
And tell me who's your player to watch this week?
Player to watch is the explosive small forward from St Kilda, Jack Higgins. He's full of confidence after slotting 4 majors last week. He's paying $10.50 to kick the first goal of the match and $4.80 to kick 4 or more goals again like he did last week. So well and truly getting around Jack Higgins this weekend.
Thank you, Shorty. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers, Josh.
The opening game of this round, Essendon, $2.20 plays Port Adelaide, $1.68. Marvel Stadium, it's a 4:30 p.m. Western Standard Time bounce down. Ridley and Saad El Howley are coming in for the Essendon side. He's making his debut. Archie Perchins and Elijah Status are out for Essendon, and couple of interesting ins there for the Port Adelaide side. So Jones, Burton and Lukosius out. Radaglia and Soldo in, and Tom Cochrane, who has Tourette's syndrome. Port Adelaide, here's a stat. Under the roof on the fast track, has won 11 of its last 12 matches at Marvel Stadium by an average of 26 points. Much better effort from Port last week, albeit against a travelling Richmond side coming off that huge win over Carlton in round 1. Essendon has copped it all week. It was a very poor performance last weekend after I thought was a pretty decent effort against Hawthorn the week before. I'm picking Port Adelaide here, boys. I think it's going to be another pile-on the Bombers last week. Thing about them is they've kicked 100 points last week, still lost.
Yeah, Quarters,
And defence. That's what it's all about with this.
Quarters, you could have told me Port Adelaide had lost their last 50 in a row at Marvel Stadium, and I'd still be tipping the Power. They went from boiled lollies to chocolates, didn't they? Were smashed in round 1. Were incredible against Richmond in
against
round 2.
Richmond, though, travelling Richmond, really young.
But the whole round did, didn't it? Everything got flipped.
Everything
got flipped.
Essendon, for me, are a bottom 4 side. Their list is horrible.
I picked them bottom
Their
4 this year.
defence is terrible. Port Adelaide will absolutely whack them.
Yeah, I picked them bottom 4 this year, but it was more out of spite, to be honest. But anyway, there you go.
What about yourself,
So Brad Scott, I mean, he's been batting away the criticisms and saying we're all mad, and he thought they're not far away, the Bombers, and they're turning the corner. But you think they're no good.
No, they're no
so
good.
he's in pain, isn't he?
They are absolutely... They're like you said, they've kicked 100 points, the first 2 games, and they've lost. They conceded 160 points at the weekend. They are no good.
What are they like at Marvel? Did you say there? They got will that make any difference?
Mate, they could be on Mars and they're not going to win this game.
Marsel.
They're okay at Marvel. It's more the point that Port's really good. Port loves going to play at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah, and Port Adelaide, I just think they're flying after that win, and
they're flying. They were terrible in round 1.
This time last week we were talking about how bad they were. It's only Richmond. I just don't think the opposition. I think
Essendon are no good.
Yeah, Georgiades played.
I tell you what, though, could Zach Merritt win the Brownlow?
No.
He would have got.
You got to win a few more games.
Would he kick 3 or 4 at the weekend?
He
34 disposals.
Oh
no, he would get 2, I reckon, last week.
What an incredible performance!
Yeah, it was 36 possessions, about 4 goals,
How
and in a losing side.
Would you be?
Yeah, amazing player.
He is
amazing,
mate. If they don't give a yelp, I reckon the heat's right on Brad Scott. If they surely,
he's been just
re-signed
for another year.
But there's got to be a response. You know what I mean?
Like, the heat's on the list.
Yeah. Who are you picking?
Yeah, now that you guys have said all that, I'm going Port Adelaide.
Okay, Friday night, Marvel Stadium, 4:40 p.m. Carlton $2.02, Western Bulldogs $1.80. I thought the Dogs were really stiff last week. I thought they were 33-14 free kicks. We've talked a lot about what happened late in the game. I just want to start with Sam Darcy. What an athlete! So not the bloke who. So made Darcy Moore look second rate last week, and that's not a whack on Darcy Moore, who's a fantastic player. The problem with Sam Darcy is he takes the ball at the highest point, and you just can't. He's either going to mark it, or he's going to get a free kick for a whack across the arm. So
you've got to body him now. Yeah.
And Darcy Moore did that after half time.
He did. You're right. Well spotted.
But he's a very good player, and not everyone can use their body. Stephen Silvani was a great example of that in the past, but. He's going to be really hard to stop this year. The problem with Sam Darcy, he gets up the ground, wheels around. He's like an elite midfielder on either side of his body. Kicks it left, kicks it right. He's a beautiful kick.
You know those basketball frames where they got the basketballs and they got the arms out? It's just terrible for a podcast, but if you're watching it should be good. I want to see Sam Darcy with one of those, with footballs in each hand and
wings,
the photo.
Yeah.
The Jordan photo, Michael Jordan photo.
I wouldn't have a big enough bloody wall in my house to put it on.
How much money is he going to be on?
He's an absolute star.
What is the story with Harry Mackay? Does anyone...
Personal reasons. It's his second week out. I think Michael Voss did a pretty good job today of saying, and look, well done to Carlton too. They're under the pump. Haven't copped quite as much as Essendon this week, but they've copped their fair bit in the Melbourne media in particular. But, they're giving him space to get himself right. So,
but do we know what it is?
No, I don't. I don't think we really even need to speculate because give him his space. We've grown up as an industry, haven't we? We can get away with this now. We can let people. Yeah, of course they can.
In saying that, I'm going Carlton.
Aren't we in the media? Isn't that our job to find out what's going on?
Well, it is.
Especially in a club under pressure, the coach is under pressure. Did you see the post-match speech he gave him? I didn't like it, Voss. Don't listen to outside
very mild,
noise.
wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's don't listen to outside noise, just believe here that. And I was thinking, these blokes need a whack. And Curnow, no, second game up, can he deliver or does he flatten out? So I don't know, that could influence your tip, I suppose.
I'm going Carlton. I think they have to bounce back. I think they're under enormous pressure, and I think they can do it.
Who, Carlton?
Yep.
Won their last 6 at Marvel too by an average of 44. They go all right under that state. On that
yeah,
state
and I just think at some stage De Koning's in great form. Cripps is playing well. Walsh has got to find a way.
You reckon it's turning like...
They were pretty good for 3 quarters
just
against Hawthorn last week. I can see your point there, Mitch. They weren't that bad.
Look, take it this way. If they don't win this weekend, I'm not tipping them until they've won 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to change my tip
I just think
again.
they're going to do it.
I'm picking the Dogs.
Are you going the Dogs?
I picked the Dogs, and when I saw Mackay was out again, I thought,
I'm
happy
staying
with
with the Dogs, stuff it.
Yep. Saturday MCG, Melbourne $2.05, Gold Coast Suns $1.77. This is a 10:20 a.m. game. When was the last time the Suns started as favourite at an MCG game?
Oh,
Do you know the answer?
I'm going to guess never.
yeah.
So I think that's amazing. It shows you. By the way, the Suns, given Cyclone Alfred hit, so we're not going to, there was a meteorological reason there, but a bye after one game. It's a mess, this opening round stuff. I repeat.
Yeah.
What a mess.
And it's actually why I'm tipping the Demons.
Yeah.
I know you may laugh at that
I'm
because
picking
after
them
their
too.
performance, but I just can't see a team playing 1 week after missing a game they're meant to have played and then having a bye and then coming up against a team that's a bit more hardened. Don't get me wrong, Melbourne were awful last weekend. Just terrible. They got to write that off and hope for the best and just hope that Clayton Oliver and Petrarca can get it done. Gawn to turn it around. So that's for me.
Gawn v Cherry last week, fascinating battle, beaten Gawn. Really interesting. What did you make of the post-match from Simon Goodwin saying, everyone's got a backstory, but then Max Gawn did come out.
Oh, what else is he going to do? He's going to say, you shouldn't have said it, coach.
So
of course he had to come out.
I think we all make mistakes.
Mate, that's
is what
another
I'm gonna
blue.
say.
No,
yeah,
that's
but it's a blue. But
that's the second fatal blow, I'm telling you.
It's a blow.
He did the Petrarca stuff he didn't handle very well. And I reckon he's in so much pain. Mm-hmm. And I reckon who could get the job? Simo. I reckon Adam Simpson is posturing for one of the jobs that come up next year. I reckon it could be Melbourne. Carlton could even come up. The Bulldogs might come up. Simo is showing his wares now because he knows that he could be in a chair next year back in coaching. He wants to go back in. I reckon Simo at Melbourne is a bloody good fit.
I'm picking Melbourne as well this week for the reason you outlined, Mitch. I just don't like that, the disruption to their momentum, if you like.
It's either going to be absolutely their biggest advantage, they're going to be so fresh and firing, or they're going to come out so rusty.
So what I'm really looking forward to is the contest here. So you've got your Bulls in both midfields. Oliver, who was really good last week, by the way. Petrarca was okay. They got well beaten by the North Melbourne midfield, ultimately.
Looked younger.
But I thought those two were okay. And, of course, we've got Raul Anderson, which is a great ruckman. So I'm really looking forward. That's what I'm going to watch this game salivate over, just this midfield battle.
Petrarca and Oliver aren't going to let Raul and Anderson do what they did to West Coast.
It's all going to come down to whether Gawn bounces back. He got absolutely pantsed.
Well, it's a hard week against.
That's Cherry.
Cherry.
Mate, that was amazing how he took Gawn apart. Yeah, he's a very good player, isn't he?
I've got one key saying in football though: you just never write off a champion.
Yeah, but that stuff about what was the drama behind the scenes? Is it affecting him? Is it a sick family member or something like that?
Yes, there is.
And his main lever, are they playing?
Yep, they're both playing. So that's massive for them as well.
Yeah, probably go Melbourne then.
Okay, St Kilda v Richmond. St Kilda $1.22, Richmond $4.30. This is at Marvel Stadium at 1:15 p.m. It was a great effort, great coaching effort by Ross Lyon against Geelong. By the way, nice little fight back by Geelong too last week. It was a great finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I love those sort of games and under the roof, but I didn't even know about Geelong's record under the roof, to be honest. So I should have tipped St Kilda.
Oh no, I couldn't after their first round performance. No.
And funny what happens when you play a player in their right position with McRae, isn't it? What was it, 34 and more than nearly a dozen clearances?
Yes.
It's just funny what happens when you play a guy where they should be playing.
Yeah,
I saw Liam Henry's mum this week. I think he's back this week.
Yeah, I think he is. Kudos to Rowan Marshall too. I know Cherry's performance was magnificent. My team of the week, which is it's a tough thing to do. Your team of the week, I can tell you, boys. And as the weekend unfolds, I pick my team, and basically what happens is you got to weigh up.
10 blokes left.
Well, no, whether a bloke should be bumped out of the team, because you end up with 14 midfielders who should be playing. Okay, so you got to pick players in their position. So on Sunday, I had, do I go with Cherry or do I go with Marshall? And ultimately, I went with Marshall. I thought he was really, really influential in that, as Cherry was. But anyway, it's my call.
Well,
so it's my team.
So one bloke beat the best ruckman of the modern era, and the other bloke, what did he do?
Well, it's my team, Barra, so I can pick who I like. I'm going to pick
Surely
St Kilda to win this game, I think, against Richmond. I want to see a bit better effort from Richmond this week, but and Tom Lynch comes back for them too, so that'll help.
Surely they win by 10 goals, the Saints. Make a statement, Saints.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say Saints win, but I can't tell what Richmond are doing at the moment.
Okay, Saturday, 4:35 p.m. at the Gabba. Brisbane, $1.50. Geelong, $2.60. Of course, Brisbane also coming off that very hot, humid game, but didn't have to travel, Mitch. So
No.
I think that they get this job done. It's a home. They don't often lose at the Gabba. You'd never pick against them at the Gabba, do you?
No, but can I go on just a quick little tangent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please
Like
do.
last
Make
week,
it a quick tangent.
Okay, so last week we had this game at 10:20 over here in WA with the Gabba game. Now we've got the two games that I really want to watch this weekend
Both
in
at 4.
GWS and Hawthorn and Brisbane and Geelong, both at the same time. Can we get this right? Like, what is going on? This is just strange to me. And by the way, there's only 8 games this weekend. There's two teams have a bye.
It is strange.
So
scheduling.
yeah, in saying that, Brisbane should win this up there. I'm the conditions after being there last week and seeing they're not going to play 2 poor games in a row. But unfortunately now I've got to pick which game to watch.
Good record, Geelong against Brisbane. Won 6 of their last 9 matches, dating back to round 6, 2020, by an average winning margin of 29 points. You never write them off. But I think Brisbane just get the job done.
No
week.
Bailey Smith as well again, which I think hurts.
Oh, no, yeah. And so the Saints, they always beat Geelong too. They do well against Geelong. So surely Geelong bounce back. I think Geelong might get it done. Just because that game was so hot, I feel like...
So you're picking Geelong at the Gabba?
I think I'll go Geelong,
Okay. Saturday, 4:35 p.m, UTAS Stadium in Tasmania. Mitch and Barra, the big one. Hawthorn, $1.50 favourites against my pre-season premiership tip, GWS at $2.60.
You conflicted here?
Connor McDonald is out. So who comes in? Is it Luke Bruce, who played well for Box Hill last week?
Luke Bruce.
It's a bit of a like for like.
Jeepers.
Or do they go with, because they are a bit undersized, do they go with Frost and Gunston? For the Giants, now have a listen to this. This is the likely ins. Hogan we know is coming in. Stringer we know is coming in. Briggs is another chance, and possibly Brent Daniels. If those 4 come in, they're 4 really big ins. I'm picking the Hawks because it's Tassie. They don't often lose there. This is how GWS wins, though, and I'll paint you a scenario. If they get this done, they win the game. So Sam Taylor is the key here. So if the GWS midfield, which goes okay, can put enough pressure on Hawthorn, enough dirty ball, so forcing Hawthorn to kick it long into their forward line, I think Sam Taylor can get the job done, because my boys have only got Mabia Chol, really, as a tall down there. So do they bring in a Gunston? What do they do? If they can isolate Chol, I think Sam Taylor can be the intercept king in this game. If Hawthorn gets ground ball forward 50, they win the game.
Yeah.
But if Taylor can dominate, then that's how they win. So it's really up to their midfield and trying to isolate Chol. Going to be a really interesting game.
You're tipping the Hawks, right?
I'm tipping the Hawks. I'll shut up in a minute. The other thing I'll say is the great thing about this game, it's going to be really entertaining. Both teams are really good off half-back.
Yeah.
Electric off half-back.
Mate, because you're tipping the Hawks, I'm going to tip them as well. My only suggestion is that Jesse Hogan, that they drive him down there. They don't let him get on a bus or anything.
How unlucky is he?
Is that how did he break his finger on a bus?
Yeah, a bus toilet door. Hey, what's the most bizarre injury you've ever done?
Well, we talked about Dermot breaking his...
Yeah.
I've asked yours.
No, I think it's one of our... not me, I had nothing bizarre, but one of my mates, David O'Connell, he did a hammy in bed. Got out
How
of
did he
bed
do
too
hammy?
quick.
Oh, really?
Did his hammy.
There you go.
Well, might have been Michael O'Connell, actually.
Mitch, any war stories?
I once slipped getting out of the bathtub when I was about 15 and
Okay.
missed a week of footy because I'd hurt my back.
Landed on a tap.
So I was I didn't miss any games for this, but when I was living in London, I was in one of the old black cabs. And I'm just sitting there. And, sometimes you put your hands behind your back. You're nice. I'd had a few beers. I'd had a few pints.
Really?
And you're nice and relaxed. You're on your way home. You're talking to the cabbie. And at the back of the seat, there's a little slot. And I put one hand down there, and it got stuck, right? And what I'd done is the big metal prong was in there. My finger got stuck on it. And the black
In the seatbelt thing.
Black cabbie had to pull over and get my hand from the back of the seat. And there's blood everywhere. So that's my most bizarre injury, I can tell you.
Brilliant.
On that note, I'm going Hawthorn.
Hawthorn by 10 points.
Sunday, 12:20 p.m, Adelaide Oval. Adelaide $1.10, North Melbourne $6.50. Love this Adelaide team. On paper, I look at them on paper and I think, how did I not pick this? Because I'll tell you why I didn't, because they've been horrible in recent seasons. But
They're primed.
a couple of things, Peatling into that midfield, allows Keys to go high forward. It's a great forward line. Philthorpe, Fogarty, and Walker, of course, but they don't get in each other's way. They've got a
they're
beautiful
brilliant.
symmetry at the moment. They've got a midfield. They can run Rankin through there.
How much do they score? It's unbelievable.
They score really. They do.
Both over 130,
So
160.
North Melbourne, we spoke about their great win over Melbourne last week. They have got a midfield, maybe the best midfield in the comp in the making, not quite yet. Comben was fantastic down back. Larky, Zerha, Jack Darling, well done to him on 300 games, by the way. So they're starting to come together. I will make this call. I think people have gone a little bit early, though. There's a lot of hype about them last week. They've turned the corner. Watch out, here they come. No. Let's see them string a few together. And I don't just mean wins, because I'm picking Adelaide here. I think they win this game at home. If there's a competitive effort, say they lost by 2-3 goals, I'm happy with that. Let's see them string 2 or 3 together. Let's not overhype them yet off one win.
I'm going Adelaide. I think they'll win by a fair bit. I think Adelaide right now at this stage are a top 6 team, and I think the thriller Riley Thilthorpe is an all-Australian contender at the moment.
He's
and
like
Jordan,
a big man mountain, and don't you reckon?
Scares me in a good way. I love watching him
He
play.
looks like the sort of bloke you'd meet in the Appalachian Mountains in the US. You know?
I reckon he
He's
can
been
play.
living in some hut up there for 20 years, and he'd come out with his
Yeti.
pitchfork and say, I don't know what he'd say, but it'd be scary.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, I reckon he'd be almost like Tarzan. He'd be a good actor for that. But, I think the Crows, and, here's my other thing. I think Jordan Dawson is a real strong chance to win the Brownlow.
Oh,
this
now
year.
I agree with you there.
His start to the season's been, I think he's on 6 votes at the moment. And I just think he's sensational. Like you said, Peatling and Cummins coming into that team have freed up so many different guys. Ben Keys is incredible. Their forward line mix is right. And if they don't have it right, they just push Taylor Walker out, and this is no shame on Walker, who's been an incredible player, but he's not the main man anymore. It's an incredible side. They're getting everything right. Dan Curtin looks good.
Well, they've got one injury, listed injury.
So, Doug, the Crows for me...
Quarters records don't get too carried away, mate.
No, I'm talking about
No,
Adelaide.
he's talking about North Melbourne.
Oh.
Because I agree with you. North Melbourne had
Sorry.
one good game, but the Crows are flying at the moment.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I honestly think they can finish top 6, if not top 4.
And they've got the gather round to come as well, by the way.
No, the Crows for me are one of the premiership favourites right this second.
I'm just book the car in for the service next Monday. Just get the oil changed and just give it a bit of a look over, and I'm on my way.
So you were saying don't get too carried
You know what
away
I should
about
do?
North.
You know what I should do? If we can do it, because I won't be here. I'm taking a couple of weeks break. I'm going over to gather round. See if I can call him when I get some reception on the drive over, and we'll have a bit of a chat during one of the podcasts. Let's try and do that, boys.
Good idea.
My absolute favourite time of the week, our old friends at Thirsty Camel. This is the Thirsty Camel mailbag. We'll be giving away a $50 digital voucher. This week's special, Hahn's Super Dry Stubbies, only $53.99 a carton. Purchase a specially marked case of Hahn for your chance to win a super long weekend. Sounds good, doesn't it? Get your questions in for next week to the westsport@wanews.com.au. Please include your mobile number at the bottom of your email, as we'll send you a digital voucher if you are a weekly winner. Here's a couple, boys. Can we please stop with the he's young narrative to remove Harley Reid's need for personal responsibility? He's old enough to have a beer, vote in national elections, pay taxes and become a member of parliament. I would guess somewhere between 50 and 100 teenagers are recruited to the AFL each year, and almost none display the problems he has had with bad temperament and ill discipline. You have to dredge back to James Sicily, drafted 2013 or further to find comparables. He's not the only high-profile draftee in the league, so it's not tall poppy syndrome. He's displaying character flaws, and opposition players and fans are exploiting those. I won't go on. You get the gist. That's from Sean from South Lake. Thanks so much, Sean. The point I'll make before I let you have your say, I think that we don't make excuses for Harley. We whack him when we need to whack him. He's a number one draft pick. But we're also allowed to praise him when he plays good footy, as we have. But we can't lose sight of the fact they're not mutually exclusive. You can still mention his age because he is 19, about to turn 20. When we were that age, boys,
Yeah, and
your decision making, it's nowhere near rounded, is it? So
your brain's still not fully formed.
So I don't think there's a problem
I don't think mine is yet.
with and Hayes was big on this.
Yeah.
I don't think you can still critique and mention his age in the same breath. I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I reckon we just need to call our jets on the whole Harley Reid age thing. I think he's young, but like you said, he's just learning his way, not just in football, but in life. And we're going to critique his poor performances when they are poor. We'll give him praise when they're good. And obviously for a 19-year-old, his ceiling is huge and the expectation we have on him is a lot higher than a lot of other 19-year-olds.
They were smirking.
It's
you look like you're about to come up with
I was just laughing about Cuzzy.
Witty riposte.
Because I was interviewing Cuzzy yesterday about that.
By the way, what was his take on the changing his profile on Instagram? Did you? Surely you asked Cuz.
Mate, how is this, right? You know how that
You had to ask him.
Yeah, you know how that got to Harley?
How?
This is unbelievable. Danny Shuey is very, she's like the
She's
mother.
fantastic, Danny. She's a great person, greater than me. You've dropped it, Danny, innit?
No,
Poor
but she's
Danny,
the second mother at the Eagles.
Okay.
Seriously,
Yep.
she does. So she did a welfare check on Harley, reached out to him, and to lighten him up, she said, oh, by the way, Ben did one of those back when he was playing for Richmond. So Harley's Googled it up or whatever, or she sent it to him. And then he's put it on his Instagram, and it's ended up on the front page of the West.
I'm sure he just Googled it. I'm sure Danny didn't provide it. But is that right? Okay. So how was Ben with that? Was he...
He's saying, thanks for dragging me back into it again. So he had to explain, because remember, he was in the change rooms and he was just messing around.
I remember up at the camera.
Before the game.
I do remember that,
He
yeah.
gave the bird and he didn't give a shit, really. But
He got fined for that, didn't he?
yeah, but that was in the change rooms before a match. It's a bit different in a game. But let me ask you this. And you know what, Cuzzy was interesting. He said, I was captain at 22. So, you think about pressure. Harley's turning 20.
So was Woosha.
And but I'm talking about the absolute hype, Prince of Perth, King of Perth stuff, which is Harley's got, which Cuzzy had and Nick Nat had. There's probably only three of them. Mm-hmm. And so he said, then I became captain at 22, which would have been monstrous as well. But of course, it did unravel. So that's the lesson there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the really interesting thing about that email from Sean too, it's a great point. I raised this on Tuesday. He could do worse, Harley, than have a look at James Sicily. Because early in his career, they used to get at him, the opposition, and it would work. They'd get into his head, put him off his game. Have a look at that example, because he doesn't...
Still a good player back then.
Yeah.
I think he's just I'm just go back to it. I think Harley's just trying a little too hard to have an impact and it's not working for him.
Yep.
If he goes back to his natural game, everyone will just talk about how well he's playing footy or how well he's going here and
But
there.
apparently,
and it won't be that
Mitch,
bad.
when he played as a junior, he played like that. That's how he played his whole life.
I'm not saying don't play on the
Aggressive,
edge.
in your face. I don't care if you're my mate. Like that Nick, what's his face from the Gold Coast, is Holman. He's one of his best friends, and they were wearing black armbands for the kids that died in their town. But he still tried to whack him.
Yeah, look,
He's that sort of dude. He's got that Worsfold white line fever.
And Barry, I'm not saying don't play with the physical edge.
I'm just saying
I think
he's not changed. He hasn't changed.
I think he's trying a little too hard.
He's not changed. He's
compared
not
to what he
changed
should
at all. He's doing exactly how he's been doing it all his life.
Okay,
There's something important I need to ask you though. So he's reached out to Luke Hodge, Harley, right? Reached out to Luke Hodge for advice. What has Hodge said to him, do you think? You're the Hawthorn man.
I don't know what he
Well,
said.
I was bringing you in saying maybe he said talk to Sicily and or give an example.
He might, yeah.
Something like that. Because Hodgie, country Victorian boy, he was a bit of a hothead too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so that's why Elliot Yeo was good for him as well. I reckon that was clever. Whoever told him to reach out to Hodgie, that was clever. Don't you
he'd
think?
give some good advice. Yeah, he
100%.
would. Okay, hi crew. I see the Derby has the dreaded Sunday evening time slot again. Are they playing for the Vanilla Sunday Cup? That's from Mr. Whippy. Actually, it's from our good friend Michelle. I'll put my hand up. I hate this time slot. We've had it every Sunday, haven't we? At 3:10.
Yeah, even another hour.
That's
earlier.
awful.
And even another area. If you're a
And
country member,
exactly.
I've got friends from Bunbury who are members.
I remember.
Who are coming up, and it's going to be midnight. Sorry, by the time they get home. It's not good for the kids the next day.
Mate,
it's
it's
a
all
horrible
about
time.
the Eagles are off Broadway, and guess what? That's the time for off
Western
only
Broadway.
Derby.
8 games.
It's a Western Derby, though. You don't reckon you'd want to watch this if you're. You don't reckon you'd
You
want to
got to
watch
put it
this?
in the slot, mate.
Gareth, there's
Yeah,
8
6:00.
games.
6:00 in Melbourne.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you,
'cause that's
Mr.
the
Channel
audience
7.
we're
Thank
after.
you,
Just chuck my cap. What cap am I wearing?
Oh,
And it won't be vanilla warfare. I don't care what you say.
You know who you remind me of?
Can't wait to watch Perth at 6
Basil.
o'clock on a
No,
Sunday night.
right now you look like
A member for
Tony
Churchlands.
Bullimore.
When he came out of
when
the,
he was rescued and when he tried to circumnavigate the globe.
When Ross
and
McLean
he
gave him the cap.
flipped his yacht out in the middle of nowhere, and then he got the 7 cap when
we
he
got
came
the
in.
cap on him at first.
You look like Tony Bullimore.
Boys, born in 1992.
That's
I've
not a
lost this.
compliment.
Hey, fellas, this one's more a statement than a question. With recent news of some of the AFL playing with disabilities, i.e. Tom Green with hearing loss, Tom Cochrane, who has 2 Rets, we mentioned it earlier, thought it's also
Rets.
worth giving Jake the Snake Waterman some serious credit. When Jake was sick a few seasons ago, well, it was last year, in fact. Was last year? The year
No,
before?
2 years
Year
ago.
before.
2023.
He was dealing with a fresh diagnosis of the autoimmune disease, ulcerative colitis. Most who have this disease struggle daily with chronic fatigue, pain, infrequent bowel issues, and the need for a strict routine and a very complex diet. A family member of mine with this condition recently had surgery to have his colon removed completely.
Boys.
It's bloody impressive that Jake can still play elite contact sport with ever whinging or whining about it, which he'd be well within his rights to. So next time we give Jake a bash, just remember what the poor fella's living with. Cheers, boys. That's from Zach from Margaret River. That's an excellent email. And by the way, we don't bash Jake too often.
We haven't had to bash him for
He's been
at least 18
magnificent.
months.
Couldn't agree more with that, though. I think we do. We've told the story. If you particularly, Mitch, have told this story, I think you broke this story. But I think we sometimes we underestimate what a great effort it was by Jake last year to recover and win an All-Australian blazer.
Yeah, and I won't go into too much detail because I've spoken to Jake on and off the record about this stuff, but I will say that I know he is very strict with his diet and a few other bits and pieces to ensure that he gets the best out of himself. I don't think it's the most comfortable living, as it's probably appreciated by that email, but yeah, it should just be absolute kudos because these athletes go above and beyond a lot of what we do. They obviously get a lot of help and get a lot of pay. I understand that. But when you've got something like that, it's obviously tough.
I had that. And
You had it.
it was, you know what brought it on was because we used to live on anti-inflammatories.
Yep.
And it destroys your guts and your bowels if you don't eat properly or if you don't. And so it takes a while to recover, but I'm all sweet now. And he'll be the same.
Okay, got to wrap it up, boys. There were a couple of good emails on Tuesday. One was about flipping the ladder and having it because it's so the moment it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Maybe Gold Coast should be on
Corrupted.
top.
It's
There's
corrupted.
another one about why did we use yellow balls last week at 3:10 start. But I'm actually going to give it to Zach from Margaret River
Yeah,
on that last
fantastic
email. I
email.
thought you are the winner of the Thirsty Camel mailbag.
Keep 'em coming too.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for
Yeah,
your
good on
time.
you,
Good luck
boys.
with your tips. Hopefully, it's better for us than it was last week.